How to Train a Happy Mind is a production of the nonprofit Skeptic's Path to Enlightenment. Our podcasts and programs are free and ad-free, thanks to the generosity of listeners like you. If you've benefited from the interviews and meditations we share, please consider supporting the podcast with a tax-deductible donation at howtotrainahappymind.org. And if you'd like to meet weekly with me and other like-minded seekers of authentic causes of happiness in our chaotic world, you'll also find links there to join our Train a Happy Mind community or get a copy of the How to Train a Happy Mind book and audiobook that features a foreword by the Dalai Lama. I'm Scott Snibbe, and this is How to Train a Happy Mind. In the United States this week, many of us celebrate the Thanksgiving holiday. There are all kinds of challenges that arise for folks during this holiday. Conflicts with the family, political disagreements, worrying about overeating, and the roots of this holiday in colonial exploitation of Indigenous people. For this episode, I'm sharing a private talk and meditation I gave last Thanksgiving for our Train a Happy Mind community, where I grappled honestly with all these issues. In it, I worked through how we can still enjoy this holiday using its underlying spirit of generosity and gratitude to expand our hearts and minds to everyone on the planet. I touch on some sensitive issues in this episode, so please feel free to share your reactions and comments in our Train a Happy Mind community at trainahappymind.org or in social media, where you can find us as Train a Happy Mind. Today is one of those episodes that I realized it's Thanksgiving, and I often lead this meditation on Thanksgiving. I started, I don't know when, maybe like 8 or 9 years ago at the Buddhist Center. But my daughter has been telling me for the last few weeks, she's like, I really don't like Thanksgiving. I have a 13-year-old daughter who's quite sensitive and kind. And I said, why don't you like it? She said, well, it's just about eating too much. This is the U.S. Thanksgiving for people who are listening in other countries, which you probably know about. It is a holiday where we kill like 250 million turkeys and eat them. And there's a lot of problematic issues historically, too, in terms of celebrating how our country was colonized, I guess you'd say. We tell a story of this kind of cooperation with Indigenous people. And there really was a lot of cooperation from Indigenous people, like especially from their side, because there was so much in this country, and they freely offered it to, most Indigenous communities freely offered it to the new people that came. And then, of course, that kindness was greatly betrayed as we gradually, took away their resources. Things they didn't even believe belonged to anybody. That's the thing. That's the funny thing about these land acknowledgements, because most of the Indigenous populations I know of historically didn't believe anybody could own the land. That it was something to share, that we all benefit from. So anyway, I think we all know those problematic aspects of Thanksgiving. But my daughter was more straightforward about her direct experience with Thanksgiving. She said, it's just about eating too much. And I kind of agreed with her. Actually, I said, I sort of agree with you that it's kind of decadent. Then I told her that, what disappoints me is that I like to invite other people over for Thanksgiving besides the family. This is something that sometimes, people don't know about Buddhism, at least Mahayana Buddhism, which is that the Buddhist perspective is that only focusing on your family is just about as selfish as only focusing on yourself. Of course, it's even more selfish if you only focus on yourself, but still just that nuclear family. But I actually do like Thanksgiving, and I've had a lot of Thanksgivings that felt really satisfying. When we have Thanksgiving at our house, what I really like to do is invite people who aren't our family. And it's usually people who don't have a place to go. I'm sure you've all done that, before and had, or been a guest at Thanksgiving like that. Like, so have I. When you've moved to a new place, or you recently split up with a partner, or had some other kind of challenge in your life. When you invite over friends who are lonely, going through a hard time. And so this year, I told my daughter, like, I'm actually kind of upset too this year because we don't have Thanksgiving at our house as much. We have a lot of family around here, so we're having it at one of their houses. And I told her I really felt sad that we couldn't invite specific people. Like we have a couple that recently moved here that don't have that many friends. I have two friends going through divorces. I told her it makes me really sad that we can't invite those people for Thanksgiving. And then I remember my my ex-brother-in-law, I was married once before. This was in Memphis, Tennessee, actually. He was out picking something. We were all having a small Thanksgiving, just the family, at my wife at that time and her mother's house. And my wife's brother went out, I think just to go pick up a few little things we need. I think there's some coffee or something. And then he came back with this homeless guy. And I was like, "Oh, who's that?" He's like, "Oh, this is my buddy, Eddie." He's like, "We went to high school together." And, I see him all the time on the sidewalk, and I decided to bring him for Thanksgiving. And you can use whatever word you want. Homeless is the word, I was raised with. Some people say unhoused, but it still feels a little awkward to say that. So, person living outside on the street. And so he brought this guy in and he smelled so bad. I think you all know that smell of somebody who just hasn't been washed and lives out there, out in the outside. And so he took him into the bathroom and he was in that bathroom for like an hour. And I heard the bathtub running and the guy was totally drunk. And so my brother-in-law spent an hour washing this guy, cleaning it up, giving him new clothes, and then brought him out. We had to kind of wait. Thanksgiving was delayed and brought him out and we all sat down and the guy wasn't doing that well. He was still kind of drunk, but he was really grateful. And it's actually, I think, the Thanksgiving I remember most clearly. Now that I was just thinking about it this morning in terms of what to say. I was like, wow, that's the one I really remember. I think when someone does, whether it's you or someone else, when someone does something so kind and generous and hard, I think when it's hard, it's particularly good. So anyway, this meditation today is ways, whether or not you do something overtly kind and generous. I think what we learned gradually through the analytical meditation is that there are always ways in our mind, at least, to cultivate those thoughts, to be generous, to create a mind of sharing and generosity. Because then I was talking to my wife and telling her about the conversation I had with my daughter. And she's like, "Oh, we really can't do it. We have the extra aunts visiting, and we all want to sit at one table. My dad wants everyone to sit at one table." I said, "It's okay, it's okay." I said, "We don't have to do this. I just wanted to share my feelings." You know, just like really, really healthy way to have a relationship, or with anybody is like, you don't have to do anything about this. But I just want to say I had this conversation, I have these feelings. But we're going to talk about the way to create the mind of sharing and generosity, which it's a technique we call universalizing. And that's the one that it transforms every pain and pleasure into a profound meditation. It's a meditation I'm constantly doing in everyday life. It's really a meditation for your everyday life, not as much for sitting on the cushion. And it's good when you're stuffing yourself with a delicious meal, think, may everybody enjoy a big feast like this, especially people who really need it that don't have food, like Gaza and Ukraine and Sudan and so on. And not cynically, because I remember feeling kind of when I was younger, a kid sometimes like, lucky me and for them, but it wasn't really with compassion. It was like more like lucky me, and those suckers. To be kind of blunt about it, sometimes I had feelings like that. When I was a kid, not exactly sure why. Um, and then also on the negative side, just arguing with the family, that's something, those are kind of tense moments that come up at Thanksgiving with people, whether it's about recent events or old unresolved conflicts. My mom voted for Donald Trump last time. I don't know if she did this time because she doesn't talk to me she's mentally ill. I'll talk about that in some other session. That's a really long one, but I understand actually. So life's problems, they can make us feel sad, angry, hopeless. And then also like what we remember from this universalizing practice is that life's joys can come with pain too. There's actually five delusions. There's aversion, attachment, ignorance. And then there's also pride or arrogance, which I shouldn't leave out so much because that's probably one of the ones like I've suffered from the most in life. That's what I was feeling, when I was a kid, like, oh, lucky me, those suckers. Arrogance that somehow we deserve it. So then you can also feel guilty when good things happen to you, that you don't deserve your achievement. And then this is meditations for that. All those different feelings that come up when good things happen to you, whether it's like arrogance or guilt, you can universalize too and just, transform the everyday experience. Remember, you can also universalize your emotions. So you can even universalize arrogance, right? And think, oh, as me feeling a bit superior to those other people. May nobody feel that way. And you can think of specific people that you may have observed that seem more arrogant than yourself and wish that they weren't, especially certain leaders. I mean, what level of arrogance would lead you to kill hundreds of thousands of people, in order to get what you want? That's the ultimate superiority that my life is more important. It's okay to kill somebody else to get what I want. All right, it's kind of heavy. I don't know how I got to that for Thanksgiving, but let's do this meditation together. So arrange your body so it's in a comfortable position. This is already something to be grateful for. I mean, how incredible that we have a safe place um, to sit down and be with a little community like this on a Sunday morning or Sunday evening in Europe. Try to relax all the muscles in your shoulders, your face, your back, your neck. It really helps to enhance your meditation. Slightly tilt down your head, close your eyes if you like. And then feel this motivation that, what was it Yangtze Rinpoche said? He called it contentment and ambition, and a wonderful summation of what it means to practice a path like this, to totally accept what we are, including that we feel angry, anger, fear, worry, that are natural and we can accept them without becoming them. We don't have to become afraid, but we can accept the fear in our mind and let it pass. Craving, and we accept that, you know. For a lot of us, that's mostly like when we're alone in the kitchen. You know, that's a hard moment. There's other cravings too that you might have. But to accept those, see if you can accept that craving as it comes, it's actually easier to let it go. It just disappears by itself sometimes. I mean, it will disappear by itself, but have it disappear quickly so you don't act on it. And even if you do, to accept that, okay, but eat an extra cookie. And the ignorance, forgetting that we're utterly interdependent with everyone else. That there's a certain level you can cultivate, total happiness and joy in your life. But at a certain level, also, if anybody suffers in the world, we suffer too. Those things can coexist. To remember that your happiness isn't separate and their sadness isn't separate. We're totally interdependent with everyone and everything in the world, even in the universe. That's where we came from. And then the arrogance, that accepting the arrogance, feelings of superiority or inferiority is in this category too. feeling higher or lower than others sometimes, accepting that, letting it pass. And then jealousy, the fifth delusion. It's quite funny when you think of jealousy sometimes because you can be jealous of someone getting something which you haven't created the causes to get, like say you have a dream of being a writer and then someone publishes a book and it's well received, then you feel jealous. But you haven't even started writing down any words on paper or in a computer. It's funny. It's nice to just think how funny that is because to have a book published, you have to create the causes of starting to write and revise, get feedback, and so on. Yeah. The way things happen is to create the causes for them to happen. Still not 100% guaranteed, but that's the path. Jealousy, which also can arise in our mind, and we can let it pass. There are antidotes to each of these too. And this meditation works as an antidote to all of them. So let's focus on the breath just for a minute to stabilize our minds. Bring your mind to your nostrils as air comes in and out, or to your abdomen rising and falling. And just like we did with those delusions, anything that passes through your mind, just let it do just that. Don't pull it forward, and also don't push it away. Just gently keep your mind on your breath, just for 1 minute. If you feel a little calmer and happier after meditating on the breath, if your mind feels more stable, wish that everybody could benefit from a meditation practice like this or something similar with the same benefit like exercise or automatic writing or yoga or whatever. That everybody could take care of themselves like this and make the small effort. And that's just about all we're going to do today. We're going to learn how to transform any experience, pleasant or unpleasant, into a way of increasing our love and compassion. Remembering the definitions, the beautiful, simple Buddhist definitions. Love is wanting others to be happy. Compassion is wanting others not to suffer. And for those of us, in the United States, where we're going to celebrate Thanksgiving on Thursday, to train our minds in advance of the holiday to be our best self, as we say, or a good self, maybe, to find a stable state of mind that can remain calm and open through both pleasure and pain. This technique called universalizing that transforms any experience into a cause for increasing our love and compassion. And it helps counteract feeling angry, worried, scared, or sad when things go wrong. Not that there's anything wrong with feeling those feelings, but it helps to process them. And alchemically transform them into compassion. And it also helps us feeling selfish or guilty when things go well, alchemically transforming pleasure into compassion. To start, it's worth thinking about some of the injustices around the establishment of this holiday, the injustices done to Indigenous people who had stable societies in balance with nature for 10,000 years before Europeans arrived, maybe even longer. They keep pushing back that number, finding more evidence of humans in the Americas. It's easy to get angry or cynical when we think about these injustices. But those too, those are delusions also. So as feelings of anger or guilt arise around this holiday, we can universalize them. So when we feel angry, we can wish no one else has anger. Remember the faults of anger because it's just contagious. Like feeling that like really reasonable signal. Anger is telling you like, oh my goodness, this is unfair. It was unfair. It is unfair. But the problem is that exaggerated negativity of anger, it bleeds out. You can't, it's like this weapon. It's like a grenade, that explodes in all directions. You can't like hold a grenade and direct it just at one thing. So you start to become angry at the people closest to you. It's just inevitable. Anger it spreads. That's why it's dangerous and harmful. Because you start to steer it towards the people you love the most. So as feelings of anger or guilt arise around this holiday, we can universalize them. When we feel angry, we can wish no one else has anger, that no one else ever oppresses another, that the injustices of this country's past are gradually healed and repaired person to person, and in bigger actions by our governments. Even if you're feeling cynical, you can wish that no one else feels cynical and that we and others are empowered to do whatever we can in our individual action. Because ultimately, change comes from individual people making small day to day decisions in how they treat others. And we can be an agent of change. I think back to this book I read about Gandhi with my daughter. Gandhi was a quite ordinary person, but he was on a train in South Africa and he was subject to some very racist treatment on that train to sit in certain places and felt humiliated. And somehow that awoke him, and this one who was before a very ordinary person became someone who totally transformed the world at his own time and still inspires in just about every nonviolent movement on the planet today. So ultimately, change comes from individual people like him making small day-to-day decisions in how they treat others, and we can be an agent of change too. So let's do this universalizing practice around the things that we enjoy on Thanksgiving. And if you're in a country that doesn't celebrate it, I'm sure there's other feasts around this time you can think of. So imagine yourself enjoying a delicious Thanksgiving dinner. And then think there are billions of people on earth hungry today who don't enjoy this meal, who could desperately need this meal much more than I do right now. There's no need to feel guilty. To try to feel grateful for being safe with loved ones, with plenty of food, In a country celebrating abundance, a holiday, however flawed, meant to give thanks for our privilege and our affluence. And as you imagine eating the dinner, you can think, as I enjoy this delicious meal, may all beings have food. May everyone who's starving find sustenance. May everyone who's too poor to have a safe, clean home have one. And if you're with family, you can think, may those who are lonely have friends and family gathered together just like me. And that, just those thoughts might make you feel quite good in a very healthy, satisfied way. And so settle into this image, seeing yourself enjoy the meal and those around you without guilt, imagining all the beings on the planet enjoying such a meal, being fed, cared for, housed, safe and secure on Thanksgiving. See if we can stay in this visualization for a little while and try to picture in detail specific people who need food, who need shelter, who are parted from family and friends. You can bring up images from the Middle East or Eastern Europe or just around the corner. Oh no, right, very, very close to our house. The sidewalks are crammed with tents of homeless, sometimes hungry, sometimes lonely, certainly needy people. But try not to let your feelings turn to guilt. Let the visualization open your heart, wishing and imagining that all beings had your good fortune. And let this fill you with warmth and a commitment to open-hearted compassion, wishing that, however small, my actions become a part of helping others. So now let's consider when things go wrong. So say you're in a conversation with family or friends at Thanksgiving, and imagine that something difficult comes up, some unpleasant behavior, unpleasant memories stirred up, arguments started about politics, religion, old fights, or the identity and values of your friend. Let this come to mind vividly if you do have some memory or imagination of things like this. And if this makes you angry or sad or defensive, that's okay. See the feelings arise in you, but if you can, try and watch them with a little distance and label them as anger, fear, sadness, resentment, without letting those feelings take hold of your mind, without letting them turn into a self-pitying story or self-justifying story. And now, within the context of this difficult situation you're imagining, bring to mind all the beings in the world, all around you, millions of them having similarly difficult conversations, conflicts right now, too. Think by my having this argument right now, may all the millions of people also fighting stop. May no one else have conflict at Thanksgiving dinner or anywhere else. May everyone have peaceful, harmonious, connecting conversations. Try and realize that people speak and act due to causes and conditions, not to deliberately harm, but through the power of their thoughts, feelings, some delusions. May all beings be able to accept, let go, to promote harmony even in the face of attack. Then think of people facing more severe arguments, imprisoned people fighting with other inmates or the guards, people in wars feeling fear and hatred toward the other side. Soldiers right now. In my meditations, I often add the phrase right now to make it really very real. Soldiers right now, patrolling deserts, tunnels, trenches, forests, planes, and drones all over the world in conflict. These things are happening right now. And then think to yourself, by weathering my small conflict with grace, may all the world's conflicts end peacefully. So imagine this really happening, that your forbearance, your open heart, your expanding mind becomes a cause for greater peace in the world. See how this way of thinking softens your pain and makes it easier to see the other person's point of view. how it avoids escalating the argument, holding tight to your side. See how through this process your heart opens. So now before we come out of the meditation, imagine that you're able to take this technique with you today through your day if it's early, or tomorrow through your day if it's late. And picture yourself using the small pleasures and successes of the day. You can think of the next one coming up for you. Maybe it's a meal, or tucking into your cozy bed, or taking a shower. Whatever they are, the small pleasures and successes of the day. Finding a parking place and offering those joys to all beings. And also see if you can transform your setbacks and conflicts, using them as fuel to expand your heart with compassion for those suffering the same or worse all over the world. See what this does to your heart, your compassion, and your patience, if you're able to universalize throughout the day. Then you can come out of the meditation. Thanks for joining me for this special Thanksgiving episode of How to Train a Happy Mind. If you'd like to deepen your meditation practice and connect with a community exploring the ideas we share in this podcast, visit howtotrainahappymind.org. You can sign up there for our newsletter and join our Train a Happy Mind community, which offers free weekly lectures, meditations, classes, and discussions. You'll also find links to purchase my book, How to Train a Happy Mind, a modern, non-religious approach to Buddhist wisdom with a foreword by the Dalai Lama, available in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. If this podcast has been a benefit to you, please consider supporting our nonprofit mission. How to Train a Happy Mind is a project of a skeptic's path to enlightenment. We rely entirely on the generosity of our donors to keep producing our podcasts and programs that are always free and ad-free. To contribute, visit howtotrainahappymind.org. We accept cash, credit, Bitcoin, and other cryptocurrencies, and donations are tax-deductible in the US. Thanks to Isabella Acebal for marketing and production on this episode. We wish you a wonderful day.